Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's Dr. Jan Fortman with Relationship Matters. I hope all of you are having a beautiful, blessed morning, afternoon, or evening. Well, today's show, I have with me again Denise Garrett. We had so much excellent feedback from when she was on before talking about her Courageous Leadership Academy that people were asking me, well, when are you going to have her back on? And I said, okay, all righty. She is coming back on. And we're going to talk about something a little bit different, although it's still going to be related to Courageous Leadership Academy. Before I begin, though, I want you, oh, wait, I forget that it's opposite. I have on my breast cancer awareness ribbon. And this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So, ladies, if you have not gotten your mammogram, please, please, please go get your mammogram. And even if you've had one, I know that I get one once a year. But even if you are scheduled for, let's say you just had one maybe 3 or 4 months ago, if you still feel something that you think is not quite right, you follow your first mind and you feel like you need another one, talk to your doctor and get another one. I have a friend who had a mammogram and they didn't see anything, but she just felt something was wrong. And she had another one. They still didn't see anything. And then she had a third one. And that's when they found a very, very small lump, a tumor. And it ended up that she does have breast cancer. So I just encouraging all of you, talk to your friends and tell them, get a mammogram. So, guess what this show is about? I'm going to show you a little bit, give you a hint. Mothers and daughters. That was Jessie and Janice, my mom. So, we're going to talk about the relationship between mothers and daughters, and even as adult mothers and adult daughters, I should say. There are times when we have problems navigating the challenges in that relationship. So Denise and I are, and you, I want you to, you, uh, to come in if you have comments, if you have questions, you have something that you want to talk about, you have some good stuff to say, or even some things that you feel that you maybe need a little help with. But I do want you to not just watch, but I really want you to participate. So Denise, it's good to have you here again.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Dan, for having me back. It's an honor to be here with you, your beautiful presence, and all of your wonderful audience that's listening or watching. And like her, I wish you all a happy morning, a happy afternoon or evening. And yes, get your breast checked, please. There's so many advances in breast cancer treatment that really do yourself and all of your loved ones a favor and just get on it and stay on it.
Okay. So Denise, let's start with you. So tell me about your relationship with your mom. Start from the very beginning when you, I was going to say, popped out.
Well,
You can remember.
I don't remember that far back, but I imagine for my mom, I was a bit of a challenge for her my entire life, probably right when I popped out. Because my mother, she actually grew up, she lost her mom when she was 6 years old. And that made a big impression on her, understandably. And so she kind of grew up. They didn't have a lot of money. She had a brother and a sister. She was the baby, and her father. And they didn't have a lot of money. She didn't have a mom. She got picked on at school. She got bullied at school, really. And she kind of has like this low risk tolerance, or sometimes I call it the scaredy cat syndrome or the worry wart. And I'm not knocking her for that. It's just not who I am. So as a little girl, I am like an adventuresome soul. I've been that way my entire life. And so I was the one that was, climbing trees and falling and getting scraped knees on my bike and trying to jump things I had no business jumping and that kind of thing. So I know from my mom, I imagine anyway, that I was quite a challenge for her from the time I was little. But she, she did, I think, as good a job as she could with me. Of course, she wished that I wouldn't take so many risks because that would have made her feel like I was safer. And that's the job of a mom, is to want her kids to be safe. So in that sense, I think she just really wanted me to be safe and happy and well. And I think that's what most moms want. But I know I was a challenge for her because I just wasn't that kid. I wasn't the frills kid. I was I wanted to be out and about playing in mud piles and things like that, rather than, in frilly dresses at home playing with dolls. So I know I was a challenge for her.
So I'm listening to you. You're talking about the challenges of, when you were young, and also about how your mom was brought up. And a lot of times, well, not a lot of times, I would say all the times, that really affects how they parent their daughters, how moms, really parent their daughters. And it's usually generational, however they came up, uh, um, they actually, that's the way they know, and then that's the way they're familiar with, and then that's the way they usually bring up their daughters, and that's the way, whatever it is in here, is how they view how their daughters are supposed to be. And when a daughter is not like mom wants to, mom wants you in frilly dresses. Um, I know my mom wanted me to wear pink. I hated pink. I still don't like pink. But 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 so do you think that, I hate to call it a generational curse, but do you think that really played a huge part in the way that your mom viewed you?
I know she loves me. I think I've just been a challenge for her in so many ways because she doesn't understand me. Like I went skydiving one time, and it was on my bucket list. I was so excited I got to go to this really cool thing, but I knew not to tell her until I'd done it. And we were at dinner after the fact, and I showed her some photos of that adventure, and I was so happy. And she was like, "Oh my God, you could have died doing that!" And she got really worked up. And then I had to, like, "Mom, mom, mom!" Like, I'm patting myself and showing her I'm standing up. I'm fine. I didn't break anything. I didn't get hurt. I'm fine. And that's why I didn't tell you before I did it, because I didn't want you to worry. Because
Okay.
all that worry is not good for you. So I do think many times things are generational. And I also think sometimes we can look at our parents and say, not that. So like I love to share this story. My mom has a sister who's 18 months older than she is, and they look very similar. But the way they cook was very different. So my aunt is a clean up as you go kind of cook, and my mom is make a huge mess and then clean up afterwards. And as a child, having to clean up after them and help out, I decided that I liked my aunt's method better. No slam against mom. Her food was great. My aunt's food was great. It was just my personal preference. So I think as children, we're always like observing, and then we try things on. And it's like, do I like this? Do I not? unfortunately, some things are unconscious. So we laugh about this sometimes in the car. My mom, when I was learning how to drive, she used to scare me to death, and she almost called me to have a major crash one time because she was like, "Oh!" when she thought she saw something coming, and I hit the brakes when I really needed to keep going. It scared us both to death. And every now and then, now I'll do that when my sweetie's driving, and it's like, I can't believe you did that, especially after what your mom did. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you know. So it's in there, whether I like it or not. That part is sometimes makes its appearance. But I also think as children, we like even now, my father's gone, and I didn't get to know him as a person. Like I knew him as a dad, but I didn't know him as a person. And I wish I had had that opportunity to get to know him more as a person. Than just as a dad. I mean, glad I had him as a dad, don't get me wrong. But when it comes to moms, like, I don't know, there's just a different relationship with moms and daughters. And um, for me, the relationship's been very challenging at times. My mom is a Southern lady, and she's very fiercely independent, and she's very stubborn. And sometimes it can be hard to break through something she has her mind made up about. And as her caregiver now, that that creates a lot of challenges sometimes.
How old is your mom?
She's 84.
Oh, okay, okay. I have a chapter in my book, and the title is Lordy, Lordy, I Have Become My Mother. So when you, so I'm listening to you when you said about driving in, you know, when you're driving in the car. So in that way, you were your mom.
Yeah.
So now, so are there things about you that you, when you look back, even though you might have said, I'm going to do something different, I'm not going to think that way, but you find that you really kind of mimic your mom?
I'm trying to think.
I think you're independent.
I am fiercely independent. I
Okay.
am stubborn. Everybody says I'm stubborn. My
Okay.
father said that he was stubborn. He said, Lord child, he said, I'm stubborn, your mom's stubborn, and you're stubborn. He goes, you got it from both of us, and you came in the world with your own special brand of it. So according to him, I'm more stubborn than all than both of them put together. And that may be true. I think from an early age, and I think my mom had to be this way too. When she made up her mind she was going to achieve something, she just did it. She put her whole heart and soul into it. And from that regard, like I really admire her because she did grow up. Sometimes the only thing they had to eat was pinto beans and cornbread. And she grew into a woman that worked full time when it wasn't popular, like when other moms were stay at home moms, most moms. And she was a real pioneer in that sense. But she was committed to giving her child and her family better than she had, and she did. She succeeded tremendously at that. I'm very proud of her. And because she did that, it gave me many opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
Okay. All right. So so how did what do you think as far as how the relationship with your mom has affected your other personal relationships? Do you see some kind of connection there?
Yeah, I sometimes think of my mom as a bit, well, I did when I was growing up. I felt like my dad was a bully and was mean to her sometimes.
Okay.
And she played the victim role or the poor me.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes like I kind of thought of her as a doormat. Like it seemed like she gave a lot more than she received.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I look back on some of my relationships, my romantic relationships, I certainly can see where I gave more than I received. So I mirrored her in that way until I healed some things. And, I guess really I got my heart broken just enough to where I was
Enough,
one
right?
day and said, enough's enough. But yeah, I think I did that like my mom did. I appreciate generosity and I want to be a generous person, but there is like a balance in there.
But what about your professional relationships?
Um, trying to think. I think just being stubborn, and like in the fire department, I had to be tough with it with my guys. Like I couldn't take anything off of them. So in that sense, I don't think I was. I think my father better prepared me for that.
Okay.
Because he picked on me, like, like the typical teasing and tickling and all that stuff. Even when you were like, no, 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 stop, and you meant it, and he kept going.
Mhm.
But it was perfect for the fire department because I learned from my father, if you show them that it bothers you, they do it more. But if you act like it doesn't bother you, it stops because they're not getting their chuckles or their jollies or whatever it is. So he helped me with that probably more so than my mom. I will say one thing: my mom is very kind, and I think that serves me well in all relationships. I let kindness and compassion lead the way, if you will. It sounds corny, but it's very powerful when I do that with people. Whether it's professional or not. Like when I was in the Emergency Operations Center for CDC's response to a couple of things, it was nice because in FEMA, it was nice because if somebody it's very stressful environment when you're doing that kind of response. And when somebody was getting too wrapped up, the guys that knew me would come, the higher ups would come and say, Denise, can you take so-and-so for a walk? And I knew that meant like, try to calm them down, try to, de-stress them.
Okay.
That was the code was can you take so-and-so for a walk? And of course I did. And it's really just listening
Okay.
and empathizing with their stress and the frustrations that come along with it. And I would say that to anyone watching, one of the biggest gifts that you can give your mother or your daughter is listening and empathy and compassion. And it's hard when you're the parent because you want them to succeed, you want them to be well, you want this, and you have in your mind what that looks like. But when you go at someone like that, they shut down, and it doesn't serve the relationship as well as when you can hold that non-judgmental listening space and empathize with them, even if I've screwed up in life, and thank God my mom, like, I screwed up one time and she helped me, and thank God she didn't um, be like, I told you so or anything. She didn't even like judge me, which for my mom was quite miraculous. But she was just there for me. I mean, she was just totally there, and it was one of the sweetest moments when I look back. I was going through a breakup, and I hadn't told my parents yet that we were broken up, and she knew, and she just asked me about it. She said, well, when are you planning on telling me? And I was like, how did you know? And she said, I know, my child.
Okay.
And then she said, are you okay? What can I do? How can I help you? Um, and we just had a really nice conversation about it. And there was no I told you so or anything like that. It was just a really loving space.
Okay. All right. So I know that you've had challenges.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. In your mother-daughter relationship, and I think usually once daughters uh, get uh, to be young adults, so to speak, and then even older, that's when the challenges start. And a lot of it is because you kind of strike out on your own. You know what I'm saying? I was telling someone nature versus nurture. Your mom, which is the most, I tell people, it's the most important relationship. It's your very first relationship, and it's really the most important relationship that you have in your life because it affects everything. It affects all your other relationships. So what happens sometimes is that once we get to be adults, so to speak, and mom really doesn't have a lot of say so, she might have a lot of, this is the way I want you to go, and this is the way I want you to be. So you had a major challenge with your mom. So tell us about it.
So which one are you thinking of? The being gay or the firefighter incident thing?
Well, which one came first?
Gay. So
I remember about that. Tell
I
us.
knew I knew when I was young, I was different. I didn't really know what to call it. And then at some point I figured out what it was. And all I prayed was let me get out of this house and be able to financially support myself before they find out. Because they're Southern Baptist and I just knew that they would hate me, condemn me to hell, and throw me out. And I really wanted to go to college and graduate from college. So I prayed and I made it out of the house without them finding out. And I went to college, and it was during college that they found out. And that's been like, I always thought my mom would have an easier time with it just because I don't know, I felt like she loved me unconditionally. And my dad was the one that was always at church. Go ahead.
Before, yeah. How you said they found out when you were in college.
Mhm.
How did they find out?
That's an adventure in itself. So I played soccer. Um, and on the weekends, I was playing soccer and staying with my partner at the time. And I wasn't going home to visit. And my mom was upset about that. And so my dad, I had an apartment on campus or near campus. And my dad's aunt ran the apartment and gave me a really great deal, which is how I could afford it. And anyway, he broke into my apartment and went through my stuff and found out, basically, he found a love card. Um, and then he showed up at one of my soccer games unannounced and confronted me about it. And that didn't go well. But then to his credit, he really didn't give me any grief about it. I think maybe some part of him knew I don't know. He never gave me anything about it. Mom had a tougher time with it. And I don't know if it's that she thought she did something wrong, or I really don't know, but she surprised me. She struggled with that. And just when I would think she was making peace with it, so to speak, she would say something that was very hurtful to me and sometimes to whoever I was seeing at the time. And it's been hard. There was many hard years in there until I guess about almost 15 years ago. I'm with my lovely partner now, and my mom absolutely loves her. So go figure. We've had one sting or two along the way, but overall, she'll actually say, I love her. So it's incredible. But painful because I try to remember that a good mom wants their kid to have an easier life. And that's not the easy life. There's a lot of discrimination that can happen. It's like my best friend is an African American psychologist, and we love each other. We're like family. But she said to me one time, "Yes, I know you're gay, and I know it's hard, but you can hide that. I can't hide the color of my skin." And that hit me hard because I know what I face as a gay person, but that hit because I don't have to let you know. You might wonder, you might think it, but if I don't confirm it, you don't know. But yeah, you can't hide the color of your skin. And
No.
so that, like, I'm glad she said it. I'm glad we're that kind of friends because it did make a huge impression, and it adjusted some mindsets that I think were very helpful for me. So now I have more compassion, more empathy, and maybe a tiny bit more understanding. I'm not going to know what it's like to walk in like your shoes, Dr. Jan, but I have a more of appreciation for how difficult it might be at times. And I don't know how I got on that, but my mom has been a challenge with the gay thing, and in many ways, we just have different, like I said, risk fact tolerance ratios, and I think my mom sometimes thinks I take these big life risk things, and I don't. Like, even firefighting, we train, we had gear to protect us. We were a team, we worked together. So yes, something could go wrong. Yes, of course you could die. I could die getting in my car going to the grocery store too. It's all about just situational awareness is what we call it in the fire department, but it's about being aware of your surroundings, making the best decisions you can. And I don't want to live my life in fear. And
Right.
that's what I chose a long time ago. Probably around the time I realized I was gay, it was like, I have a choice. I can live a lie, or I can just be true to who I am. And I'm going to be true to who I am and face whatever comes with that. And it hasn't always been easy, but I wouldn't change it. Now, when I was in the department, I was not out. I was my county's first and only female firefighter, and I was trying to win that battle, so to speak, before I added more gasoline on the fire. And a coach, a mentor of mine, recommended that I not until we knew that battle had been won. So I didn't. But after I left, I was determined I will never be in the closet again. I was like, I'm not. I am who I am. I know I'm a good person, and like it, love it, not. It's your problem, not mine.
So did you have, so when your mother came to accept who you are, did you have conversations about it, or, how do you think she came about accepting it, especially since it was so hard for her in the beginning?
I think she still worries because she's Southern Baptist and she's like old school Southern lady. So I think she still worries that I might like die and go to hell. Um, and understandably, if that's your belief, then yeah, you don't want your kid to go there. You love your kids. So I just kind of take that one and let her, that's her belief. I'm not necessarily going to change her beliefs, but I think just more she realized like I'm a good human being. And actually I do live a pretty good life. I have really good friends. I know that I've had some key friends that have made a huge difference, in her like being with me and me being gay. And it's, one of them is a dear friend who's also gay. We've known each other, as she says, since I was a puppy. And then my other friend is my best friend I told you about, but she just sees like straight, gay, it doesn't matter. Like there's loving people in my life, really good quality people, that even she loves to hang out with. So yeah, like, I'm really okay. And I'm as safe as most people are in the world.
So why did your father break into your apartment?
My mom thought I was doing drugs of all
Oh,
things. And so he just he told me he didn't necessarily believe that, but he didn't know what was going on. And he was trying to shut her up or calm her down is what I should say. So, and now that he's gone, I understand what the poor man went through, but, he just wanted to see if he could figure out what was going on. Like he was just trying to get intel. So that was why. And he found out what he needed to know because he figured out where I was staying. So, he got the info.
wow.
It
Wow.
it caused a rift in our relationship for a while. 'Cause I
I
didn't
can
trust him.
imagine. I
Yeah.
can imagine. Oh my goodness. Well, we're going to come back because I want to talk about some of the challenges that we see in the adult daughter aging mother relationship. So hang on. We will be right back. And well, we did have one comment before we go. Let me find it. When we were talking about moms knowing their children. And
Yes.
you said, yes, mothers really know their children very well. And you know what? And the children think we don't know them.
Maxine, you nailed that one. I'm telling you. Moms know their children very well.
Very, very, very well. Okay, so we will be right back with Denise. Well, we are back. And yes, I am the author of, let me get it right here. There it is. So the light won't shine on it. The Secrets to How Not to Throw Mama from the Train. It's all about how to navigate the challenges in the mother-daughter relationship. It is available on Amazon.com. And you can buy it from me directly with a signed copy at Jan for now, and I will put that up later in the lower third. Jan, the number 4, NOW 125 at gmail.com. That's Jan for now 125 at gmail.com. And if you feel that you need to talk to someone, I do give a half-hour free discovery call. And then we'll find out from then if there's something I can help you with right then and there, or if you need a little more help, and then you can get into my coaching program. So that was my shameless plug. So I'm back. So let's talk about some of the issues that, and it seems like that you have been able to overcome the issues with your mom. But there are a lot of times when adult daughters and their moms have real issues, and they have difficulty navigating those issues. Now, I have a friend, and then one of my clients, who says that, well, she's the mom, and she says that no matter what advice she gives her daughter does the opposite. So, and I ask her about the advice, and a lot of times the advice is good advice, but her daughter does the opposite. So how do you think that, I'm going to use you, Denise. So when you talk about, I know you're the founder of Courageous Leadership Academy. How do you think, what do you think that mom should do? Or what suggestions do you have for her?
It's a complex issue. I don't know how old the daughter is, but
In her 30s.
In her 30s. So reverse psychology is the first thing that comes up. But truly, if you can listen to whatever she's going through without your agenda, and it's hard as a parent. It's hard when we care about someone, when we see the solution so plainly, so clearly, and we know it works because we've been there before, so to speak, and we've used the solution and it worked, and it's worked for 15,000 of our friends. But if she's not taking the advice, that my best guess is at some level she may not feel heard, like truly heard. So holding just the space and getting curious about what it's like in her world and what she's experiencing, and just listening without giving any advice.
Okay.
Just listening is the one place I would start. And I would say, I always usually say it depends. So if it's something life-threatening to her, you got to act. You just got to intervene. That's the bottom line. I don't care how old. It's like my mama says, she's 84, and she says I'm always going to be her baby, and that's true. So if truly I was doing something foolish and reckless and dangerous with my life, she would have the right and desire to intervene, and I think she should. But if it's like normal, like I don't know the real issue, but depending on what it is, that holding that listening space. Because what I've discovered is when kids feel judged, and this doesn't matter how old the kid is, when they feel judged, they shut down. When they shut down, like you're not getting all of the information that you need to really truly help them. Although, like Maxine said, mamas know their children really, really well. So it's really, when you know your child really well, it's even harder sometimes to hold that kind of non-judgmental listening space and just let them be and talk, and then ask, would you like me to give you some guidance. Because, and if they say no, respect it. And that's hard. It's hard to let go. It's hard to let go of your babies. I know I have a cousin who I was really close to her kids when they were young. And her son, I was babysitting him, well, him and his sister. And he came home from school one day and he was like 9 years old. And he asked me about condoms. He wanted a condom. And it took
Wait a minute.
everything.
Wow.
9 years old, and he asked me for a condom.
Oh, geez.
And he was asking questions about condoms, like what's this kind versus this kind. And I didn't know. But it took every ounce of self-control I had not to have a meltdown, because everything in me was like, you're 9 years old, you don't need to know this. I was like, inside I'm panicking, but something in me knew I have to stay calm. I have to listen. And I have to find out why he's curious about this, because if I blow up like what was going on inside of me, he'll never talk to me again, ever. And I didn't want, like, I wanted him to have that. I wanted to be the go-to, like, you can come to me. And so when I asked him, it just was something simple. One of his kids had been in his brother's wallet and found one and brought it to school. And he and his buddies, and I knew all of his little friends,
Okay.
they were being curious, as any kid would be. And then they started talking about different kinds, because the other kid ended up, like a couple of days later, bringing one home that he found in his dad's nightstand, and it was a different kind. And then there were the questions. And so he asked me, and so I told him the truth. I was like, son, I can tell you what they're used for and why you should use them when the time is appropriate, which is not now. But I don't know the answer to your questions, but I know the guys, and I'll ask them for you, my firefighter guys. I'll ask them. And that was hard. It was hard to go get intel. But that's kind of like when you want that relationship with your child, or someone you care for. That's how it's just an effective method. It's not the only method. Like I had a mama, and when I was younger, I was getting off track, and she had passed. And I was having a dream, and in the dream, she kicked, like, I remember this vividly. Like, I was dreaming, and she was trying to get my attention to get me back on track, and I wasn't listening in the dream. Well, she kicked me in the seat of the pants, and I literally lifted off the bed and woke up.
Really?
And I said, okay, Mama, I hear you. I won't do it. I'll behave. I'll do the right thing. I'll straighten up. I was like, just please don't ever do that to me again. So I think that our elders who love us, they can be present for us and know stuff about us in many ways. So sometimes your kid does need a kick in the seat of the pants, so to speak. And it's okay, when it comes to that. But overall, I really think listening is key.
Yes. So Brenda Tucker Jeffrey says, I learned that daughters can be contrary without even knowing it. One day, they will hopefully say to Mom, I wish I would have listened to you. You were right. As a matter of fact, I hate to scoot back, but yeah. Would you get that for me? Okay. This is something that I found. Good God. Oh my God. OMG, my mother was right about everything.
It's funny how the older I get, the more I see things that she was totally right about. Totally.
I used to get so, I would get angry with my mother, because when I got my first job, and I, just making a little bit of money, well, especially compared to today. And my mother wanted part of my money. And yes, well, okay, you said, oh, now she said, well, now you're going to have to give me, part of your paycheck. And I was like, why? And she said, well, you're using my electricity. You're using my gas. You're using my toilet tissue. You're eating my food. But but yes, but. And I used to think that was just so wrong until later. So later I knew she was teaching me responsibility, because when I when I got out on my own, I had to do all of that. I had to pay my rent. I had to buy my own food, buy my own toilet tissue, and so on. So a lot of times when you have these back and forths as with your mom, even as an adult, she's still teaching you lessons. Now, I had a client, and her issue was that her mom always criticized the way she dressed, criticized the way she did her hair, just criticized. And so it ended up, with the daughter really, really started resenting her mom. So now if someone comes to you, I know she came to me for that, but in your Courageous Leadership Academy, when you talk about relationships, have you ever had, let's say, women or daughters that come to you for one thing, and then you look and it's the relationship maybe with their mom or with their daughter that's affecting everything else?
Sure, that happens.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Moms play such a pivotal role. Like you said, that's the first relationship we have. And yeah, absolutely. It plays, like, I love your show. I love what you do because relationships matter and relationship matters. So I just love it. So yeah, there's all sorts of things that come up from moms. Like my mom, like when you said criticize, I remember I would bring home like a 98 on a test, and she would say, "Why wasn't it 100? If it was 100, it would have been perfect." And so I'm like all excited. I made an A, a solid, like a high A too. And then she would say that, and I would deflate, until my dad saw it. And my dad saw it, and he would be like, "You made an A." And it built me up a little bit, but that's a thing. Like, I couldn't please mom. And to some degree, I feel like that to this day. Um, because like now it's different because I'm her caregiver, and I'm walking a fine line of showing her the respect that she's due, and I do respect her, and being the caregiver and seeing things that have to happen for her to stay in her home where she wants to stay for as long as we can, and uh, the care that she needs that I can't provide, but also trying to honor her dignity or help her keep her dignity intact. It feels impossible and overwhelming at times, but I remind myself I'm doing the best I can. And I remind mom that, there's just certain things we have to do if you want to stay in your home for as long as you can. And I'm here to support that for as long as it's safe and as long as you cooperate. And it's just a challenge. And because like with a kid, when it's your kid and they're young, you can say, you're doing it because I said so, because I'm the
Right.
adult. But you can't do that with your parent.
No, you cannot. I was a caregiver for my mom for a while, and sometimes I would get from her, "I'm your mother. You are not my mother." and you're right about it being a thin line, a fine line, because you are doing what you feel is best for them,
Right.
but you still have to respect the fact that she's the mother. And I remember having an argument with my mom in the grocery store because she liked to cook with salt pork, and she had high blood pressure.
Oh,
But that was the way she cooked, forever. And I'm like, "You don't need that salt pork," and I'm taking it out, the basket. She putting it back in, and we arguing back and forth, and then I started thinking, you know what? If she's just going to do it, she's just going to do it. And I think what happens sometimes when we get into a caregiving role, we forget that they are the mother. Now, I a couple of just a couple of comments that came in. Joni Coakley. She says, my middle child would ask me for advice. And when I tell her something she didn't want to hear, she would get mad. Fortunately, she has matured and realizes ask me, she might not like what I say, but she doesn't blow up. It's been a long process.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tony,
That's,
I'm
that's
glad she got there. Yeah, that's a
wonderful. And Sandy Barney Ennis says, luckily, I did get that chance. Oh, I mended our relationship after having two daughters and experiencing the same attitudes I had towards her. I guess she's saying towards her mom when I was younger.
that's
Oh, yeah, well, your daughters teach you, don't they?
yeah, that's beautiful.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And then when we were talking about some, Maxine says, when we're talking about how moms know their children, sometimes moms can read the grandchildren as well. Yeah,
Yes,
as well, you know.
it's that
So
wisdom thing that kicks in. I'm telling you
not only that, it's that experience.
that.
It's like, wait a minute now, I've been there, done that. You cannot pull the wool over my eyes. you know, when I was teaching, uh, if I would sometimes I tell a parent, your daughter did this. Oh no, my daughter would never. And I'm like, I look at them, I'm like, okay, so when you were her age, what did you do? Oh, well, yeah, okay. So here is Gwen Dunbar, and she says, what about mothers who have multiple daughters and the differences that the mother makes with them? This always seems to be a way to put division with the daughters. What do you think about that, Denise?
It's that sibling rivalry thing, and I wish I knew a way to completely squash it, but it's just it seems like it's an innate part of our beings that if one's getting attention, we feel slighted, and that's not true. Because we know, like it's like you love your kids, you love them all, and they're each unique. And so the way that you love them is slightly different. And a lot of people don't want to say that, but it is just because they're different personality. Of course, you're going to be with them a little differently. But I think it's just this innate thing in us. So the best you can do is keep doing what you're doing, love them to the best of your abilities, reassure them that you don't have a favorite, that you love them all. And if they start killing each other over the jealousy, break up the fights.
But sometimes moms do have favorites.
Yes, they do.
They do have favorites. But I think what should happen, I don't know what does happen in a lot of because, but what should happen is that the mom should sit down with each one of them and let them know that um, I love you because this, that, and the other. And in other words, give each one something positive so that they don't feel slighted. But that happens in a lot of families, especially with girls. Especially with girls, the relationship with moms and daughters is totally different from the relationship with moms and sons. Uh, we always say the a mother loves her son and raises her daughter,
Mhm. That's
and
beautiful.
vice versa, and
Yeah.
vice versa. So, Denise, if you could think of the fondest memory of you and your mom's relationship, what's your fondest memory? What's something that will always stay with you?
There's many.
Okay.
I have to say, this isn't a brag on me, and it might sound like that, but I don't intend it that. The one of the best memories I have of my mom is we were at a home and garden show, and she saw this statue of a little girl reading a book, and she just fell in love with the statue, and she was going on and on about it. And my immediate thought was, is there any way I can buy this for her without her knowing it and give it to her for Christmas? And so my aunt was with us and they went somewhere else. And then I found a way basically to sneak it. Now I put it in the trunk of my mom's car because we took her car, scared to death she was going to notice it. Thank God she didn't. But the biggest joy that I have is I still remember the look on her face when she opened that and saw what it was.
Okay.
She just was beaming with so much joy and she was just shocked and she was like, how did you? How did you? And and I think it just meant a lot to her that I saw something that she really got a lot of joy from and went to those, measures to get it for. But I just still remember her face. I just
Okay.
still remember her face. Another one of my favorite memories is we went to the Georgia Aquarium with my father, and she was scared to go. And there's a section where you walk through, and the animals are like this fish are like swimming all around you, like above you and on both sides. And she was scared to go. But I like held her hand and I said, "Come on, Mom, we got this." And we did it. And when she got in there, she was just oohing and on. She totally forgot about her fear. And she just got caught up in the beauty of it. And she held my arm the whole time. It was just so sweet, just so
Oh,
sweet.
that sounds so sweet. And I think that's one thing I'd like to say is even though we have challenges in the adult daughter mother relationship, even though it's a relationship like a roller coaster, it's the ups and it's the downs and it's the screams and it's the yells and it's the crying and it's the laughter. But it's always something that we can look back on and have that bond memory, and some of my clients, I talk to them about when it comes to when they look back and it's painful and we talk about forgiveness and it's like, but there's got to be one thing where you can smile and say, well, you know what, I remember this, uh, uh, and it's a funny story here, and I'm not going to say which person on here had this story, but and I'll never forget the story. But she said she was away, and the security alarm company kept calling her because the alarm was going off, and she knows what I'm talking about. The alarm kept going off, and she'd come home, and they couldn't understand why the alarm was going off. And so they were looking around, for the little remote, and they couldn't find it. So she would leave, and the alarm would go off again. She'd come back, they never could find it. So what happened, she was there, and the alarm went off, and she, like, and I'm not getting the story exactly right, and like, well, where is the remote? Why is the alarm keep going off? Why is this thing triggering the alarm? And found out it was in her mother's house shoe. And it
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. That would do it, huh?
set off the alarm. I have not forgotten that. Because that is so funny to me.
It is. Oh my goodness.
It's so funny to me. And just one little funny thing I remember about my mom. We were downtown Chicago at Nordstrom, and it was this big, tall escalator. And I didn't know my mother was afraid of escalators. So I got on the escalator in front of her, and I'm just going down, I'm just talking, and I get down to the bottom, and I turn around and look, she way up there, and she was just laughing. And I'm like, what you doing up there? She said, I'm scared. I go back up there and say,
Oh
okay,
my.
let's find an elevator, so yeah, so there are all kinds of little things that we can think of. So Denise, well, we only got a couple of minutes. This time has gone by so fast,
It
but
has.
I'm very, very happy that I saw a picture of you and your mom where you all were smiling, and it was just a wonderful picture, and I'm very happy that you and your mom are in a really good place. And all of my viewers, if you are having some challenges and difficulties as far as your relationship with your mom, remember, whether your mom is with you or not, even whether or not you were adopted, but your mom is the most important person in your life. Your mom is the most important person in your life, and I want you to remember that. So, Denise, thank you so much
Thank you.
for sharing with us. Thank you so much for just giving us just some valuable content and just a very enjoyable episode.
Thank you. And I just want to say a big thank you to all the moms out there for all the sacrifices you make, for all the love that you give, and just for everything you put up with your kids, because it's not an easy job. It's probably the hardest job in the world. And I just want to say a heartfelt thank you.
Oh, and this is something to last. When Sandy Barney Ennis says, when my mother was in her last painful stage of cancer, hospice had sedated her as if she was in a coma. I snuck out to the bathroom and my mom sat up and screamed my name. No one could believe it. She said, Sandra, her last words. Oh my God, Sandra, that's just wonderful. You're
That's
gonna make me cry.
that's incredible.
Beautiful, Sandy. Beautiful.
Very beautiful.
So thank you, Denise.
Thank you, Dr. Jan. Always a pleasure to be with you.
Yes, and thank you so much. So you have a beautiful, blessed rest of your, well, evening, because I know
Yes.
where you are.
Thank you.
All righty, bye-bye. Thank you all for um, viewing the show tonight. I do have a show called the Mother-Daughter Relationship Show, and it's on the Win-Win Women TV network, and I should have had it running across the bottom, and I didn't. Got so caught up. And that's where I give tools and techniques about how to navigate the challenges in the mother-daughter relationship. But until then, and I think that's about it. So thank you all for joining us this evening. I hope that you enjoyed the show, and I also hope that you really got some valuable information from Denise. So I will see you again next week. Have a beautiful, blessed rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening.